Welcome to Laptop Radio. Today's topic is update on the information revolution and the top 5 technologies we must understand. We have Shahin here, who is partner and analyst at OrionX.net.
Yes.
And welcome back, Shahin.
Michelle, good to see you. We never have met in person, but this is the second time I meet virtually, so that's great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this topic. It seems like a lot of technology has reached mass adoption, especially some of them that we've spoken about from last time. And so it's been really exciting. Let's talk about your story and just really introduce all the audience about who you are, what your
Okay.
story is, so
Okay.
that we can have some context.
All right. Very well. Very well. It's 2023, so kind of the traditional models of business are all eligible to be changed. So we are an analyst firm that also does marketing. We sort of meet strategy at the marketing activity. Because of the customer engagement, we also dabble a little bit in policy issues because technology is increasingly driving policy, including the geopolitics of the world, and we get pulled into that. So we are a very small team, you would say, a boutique agency. We are basically 3 analysts and a few others that sort of help with the marketing side. And we focus on generally the leading edge technologies that are right around the corner. So it kind of changes from month to month depending on what advances are made. Today, our focus is on edge computing, on cryptocurrencies, quantum computing, fusion energy, cloud infrastructure, supercomputing, and that pulls you into a lot of other things that we also like to do. Fundamentally, we like to study things. We study harder than we did when we were in high school. And we're pretty nerdy then too. So that kind of keeps us all excited and learning. And also, we come at things mostly from a technology standpoint, and then also try to understand the impact on policy and on customer engagement and market execution. So that's what we do.
Awesome. I wanted to mention or chat a little bit about the information revolution. I feel that coding, computers, and tech has changed our society in many different ways. I feel like first we have the computer, and then we have the internet, and then we have social media. Of course, there's always pros and cons. And then just recently we have ChatGPT, which is interesting because it kind of reminds me of being on Clubhouse. While we were making metaverses, it was just so hard getting people to pull them into metaverses. But after Mark Zuckerberg talked about metaverses, everyone spoke about metaverses on Clubhouse. And in the same way on Facebook, we were talking about AI for a long, long time. And then as soon as ChatGPT is available to the masses, everyone is talking about AI as if it's new. I think it's awesome. I think it provides access to everyone. How excited are you regarding
Oh.
that progress?
Well, referencing our last conversation,
Mhm,
I think AI means intelligence is computable.
mhm,
Just like cryptocurrency means trust is computable.
mhm.
So I believe that long term, more and more things will be computable. Generally, I think that AI will be better at basically everything than human beings in due course.
Mhm.
While ChatGPT right now seems like a cut and paste automation machine, and it's a bit of a BS artist, and it's liable to be really wrong, it's more like it's out to impress you rather than give you the truth, so to say. It's going to get better and it's going to keep getting better. I expect there will be intense competition in this area. Do you remember the Google Lambda like a year and a half ago?
Yeah.
And the engineer in charge of it or related to it was calling it a sentient kind of a thing. And he seemed to have an actual relationship with Lambda.
Yeah.
So it's been happening for a long time. And I think they did not make that available to the public, but ChatGPT has become available. So people are duly impressed.
Yeah.
So I think it's coming, and I think it'll be a challenge for human beings to handle it and manage it and transition to a world where machines are not just more stronger physically, but also intellectually, not at least from an automation ability to do things.
Yeah.
This also, by the way, pushes human beings to be more human, to be more complicated, to show the fractal edges,
Mhm.
to make themselves more difficult to copy. Because for the past several decades, humans have been trying to simplify, dumb it down, structuralize it. And the more you do that, the easier you make it for computers to emulate you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit excited, but I wasn't surprised having to make chatbots and work with Luna and Sophia in the past. I was kind of expecting it. I kind of like how much information and training that I had on the back end, but I'm just looking forward to seeing it grow and also having boundaries around the use of the technology. I think it's going to be really important. If someone wants to create a dark web or something that might harm us, the question is whether there's responsibility for the creators to put those safeguards in place.
You're absolutely right. We wrote a paper back in 2016.
Mhm.
A chapter of it was Grand Challenges of Artificial Intelligence.
Mhm.
And in it, we referenced Isaac Asimov's 3 rules of robotics,
Mhm.
right? You can't hurt you, it has to listen to you, et cetera, et cetera. But a big challenge that we raised at that time was a legal framework that
Mhm.
would govern how AI would be operating. And you cannot have a legal framework without an ethical framework.
Yep.
And I'm pleased to see that there's a lot of research going on in all of these, but we still don't really have it.
Mhm.
A very big piece of this is that when a human makes a mistake, how we forgive or manage that is very different than when a machine makes a mistake,
Yeah.
right?
Some of the red flags or some of the mistakes that the AI could make would be, what if they share a social security number to someone who asked for it so they can hack into a system to steal something? Could it hack into a bank account? Who is responsible for that? What if it chose not to answer questions if it detects that someone is of a different race? Could that be a possibility because of the biases inherent in the education and the information that it is trained on? When I mention education, I refer to the training that the bot has,
Right, right.
because it has to learn from somewhere. And if
Yes,
it learns from society, we have a number of society constructs.
absolutely. I think bias is unavoidable. The assignment is to be able to characterize it and to make sure that it is a desirable bias. If you have a bias in favor of truth, that's a good bias. If you have a bias in front of justice, that's a good bias. But it is important that you know that, and it is very difficult to do that right now. The
Mhm.
other thing, of course, is that these AI systems, by definition, are rear view mirror. They only have access to the data that has happened in the past
Mhm.
that they happen to have access to. What do you do about fresh new data?
Mhm.
Right? A lot of complexity, a lot of complexity.
I think another item that I've noticed is that I've been playing with AI music for the last couple of days. And
I love it that you pull up your sleeves and get into deep on all of these things. Whether it's your NFT arts and the angels and everything is so impressive. Good job.
yeah, so I've been playing with music and AI, and I've been reading every single terms of service that they have. And I think, as I mentioned, with Midjourney and some of the other AI image generator, you own the IP. There are some apps that say that they will own the IP. With some of the music, a lot of the music, the platform owns the IP and not you, even though you use their tools to create the sound, and it has AI on the back end. What is more disturbing is they allow you to integrate that with blockchain or NFTs.
Mm.
And with those kind of technology, things are not reversible per se. How could a license be revocable? When it's on the blockchain, it really couldn't. And what is concerning to me is also really the role of humans, the roles of lawyers, the roles of founders in the creation of these AI tools, and also the role of an entity. Entity loves to own things. They love to monetize on different things. The thing I like about some of the AI art generators is that Well, we give you a tool to make something because it's from your prompt. You own the IP on it. But with music, it hasn't changed that Web 2, Web 1 attitude of the company owns everything and we license you and we provide the tool and we charge you a monthly fee. Sometimes it's just really difficult to be in between worlds where Web 3 is about co-ownership, where we pay something and we own something. And then a lot of these music and AI platforms haven't really gotten the message that we're moving into a different kind of world, I think. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago when we look at AI, not all the information that are feed into the AI is clean or
Mm.
accurate. I can see the role of blockchain in just really ensuring the integrity of the information or that those can be changed so that it can has trust, so that data could be intelligent, but also could be trustworthy. And I think that's what we need. And I think that the revolution for the internet is both. How do you see AI be integrated into the other top technologies?
Well, I see AI fundamentally as an automation thing that will be more and more sophisticated automation.
Mhm,
And at some point, a sufficiently sophisticated automation is indistinguishable from intelligence
mhm,
because you now can manage so many different branches of the tree that what it is you're automating is actually quite impressive. And I think we're observing that. But I really stop short of thinking that AI is going to do anything more. And by the way, I think just the highly complicated automation is a very important achievement.
mhm,
In that sense, it can be applied to anything that is complex, that is workflow oriented, that is just difficult to manage reliably.
mhm,
Now, on the crypto front, because of the NFTs and DAOs and
mhm,
pre-programmed behavior and smart contracts, etc., a lot of that intelligence is pre-programmed into the systems,
mhm.
which of course is also part of the problem because when you let them go for a while, they can become unstable.
Mhm.
And sometimes you think that maybe it would be okay for it to kind of be governed by an AI to provide the guardrails when it's going, too unstable, right? We will see where that goes. But in terms of authenticity and integrity and sort of assurance of an artifact, physical artifacts are easier, but they're not prone from imitation and they can even fool some of the experts, right?
Yeah.
AI can help with that. With digital artifacts, you can put a watermark on it from the beginning. You can
Mhm.
put a timestamp on it. You can start that, but you cannot control copies. So the receiving party, if they don't know when the original is, they can be fooled by a copy.
Yeah.
And multi-chain integrity is really very difficult.
Mhm.
Maybe there too, AI could be helped by scouting around the internet and at least having a probability that, okay, I looked in all the usual places and I couldn't see a duplicate of this that would refute this. That's possible. But what you're referring to, I think, is a very, very difficult technical problem to ensure authenticity and realness. And that's the other recognition, by the way, is that we are moving into an era where we move from precision to probability.
Mhm.
The answer may not be 5.0, the answer might be plus or minus
We're gonna
5
have
plus or
ranges for
minus 0.5.
now. What day is your birthday? Well, it could be February 1 to February 10.
Yeah, exactly. So some things are going to be facts. A
Mhm,
lot of more interesting things are going to be probabilities.
mhm,
And that's a fact of life too. Now you can vary the weight of a protocol based on the size of an importance of a transaction.
mhm.
And you can say, if I'm just buying a cup of coffee, 80% probability is fine. If I'm transferring X thousand dollars of something, then I'd like the probability to be 99.99%.
Mhm.
And maybe that's how we will manage it.
Okay. And then also I wanted to talk about IoT. I went to CS this year and it seems like there's a smart anything and everything in the house. It's kind of nice in a way, but at the same time, I'm always afraid of data and data mining and cameras in these home devices. So then I just feel like as much as it allows for efficiency, I don't really know if companies are conscious and careful of what they want from the data they get.
Yeah. Well, I think there's obviously the privacy part and then the security part.
Hmm.
IoT is just a very, very good thing for the bad guys because it's attack surface.
Hmm.
Anything that's connectable is also eligible to be hacked. The security infrastructure for IoT, going all the way to a hardware root of trust,
Hmm.
going all the way to individually protected devices, not as a class, but as an individual,
Hmm.
that necessitates a secure supply chain all the way to a trusted factory.
Hmm.
These are really difficult things to do. There are a few vendors that are doing this
Hmm.
to at least my satisfaction, and that's really encouraging, but many of them aren't.
Are you currently using any smart home devices right now?
I have a couple of things from this particular vendor who I think have really done a lot of homework in
Okay.
making sure it's all secure. What I look for is, does the device have a hardware root of trust? It needs to be hardware.
Okay.
It cannot be eSIM, or it has to be an actual hardware thing, number one. Number two, it needs to have a trusted factory, that where that thing, not the whole thing, but at least the secure part of it, needs to have been manufactured in a trusted factory such that it is immune from tampering. Then the way it gets activated, when it gets activated, you need to then connect everybody together again to say that, yes, this is the customer that I really shipped the product to.
Hmm.
This is the actual product that I shipped it to. Here's the software that is actually running to. So there needs to be like a three-way, four-way, if you include your phone and if you include the cloud. All of these need to sync up.
Okay.
Activation of IoT is usually a pain in the neck because pairing it with your phone is prone to mistakes and retries. So you need to get that right. And not many people do that.
Yeah.
And then there's a cloud, and then there's a phone, and then there's the actual device. Now you are really looking at three kinds of developers. You're looking at an embedded developer for the device, a mobile developer for the phone, a cloud developer for the cloud. These are three different disciplines. To get
Hmm.
all of them under one roof to actually design an integrated product is not what everybody has done. So these all add complexity to it. Having said that, IoT is coming. Now, there's also a notion of near edge and far edge and mobile edge,
Hmm.
right? So when you say kind of IoT, that really depends on the T. There's a concept of a glass floor, not a glass ceiling.
Hmm.
Is like all the devices that are so small, door sensors and tiny
Yeah.
little things that are also connected. So they have a different reality, right? Now
Yeah.
you put all of that in a light bulb, it needs to be running next to a pretty hot element. The environmentals become really complicated. It needs to be really tiny. It gets really hot. It
Yeah.
needs to have all of those things. Anyway, so lots and lots of complexity. A lot of progress is being made, and there are some really, really good solutions that are out there. But CES really generally is simultaneously a parade of solutions looking for a problem, but more importantly, a parade of features looking for a product.
Yeah. When I think about IoT, some of the stuff that I like about that is when you go on a train and they basically use IoT sensor to tell the city how many people are in there so that they can allocate resources. I think those are awesome. Sometimes merchants use them to see who the customers are so that they can tailor your needs to you. But again, I saw Hey Disney in the Amazon booth, and I thought that was awesome. But again, I have a couple Amazon Echo devices, and I had to pull the plug because I know that they record our conversation because I make bots myself, right?
You
Chatbot.
do, I know.
And like every time someone speaks with me, I can see what they say. I even pull it out from my office because I feel like some of the conversations that you have with your customers could be confidential. I'm hoping in the future we can provide consent to what the information that we could provide to the manufacturer or the company who sells them and what kind of information they couldn't get, and to do it according to their privacy policy and not just to have that to say that they have a privacy policy. I just wanted to see action and congruency with the terms and also the action that they take so there's no surprises. And then there's 5G. Has
Yeah.
anything changed with regards to 5G?
Well, it continues to be a big geopolitical topic,
Mhm.
and there are kind of reports of how one country is ahead of the other.
Mhm.
But in terms of actual usage, 5G enables a bunch of things on the front end as well as the back end, but also has some complexities because while it gives you higher density and faster communication
Mhm.
and more geospatial accuracy and this, that, and the other, it doesn't give it all at once. If you really want it fast, then it may not be so dense. And if you want it so dense, then it may not, right? So that's one thing to remember. The second thing is that you kind of need a line of sight.
Mhm.
If it's snowing, you may not have that speed.
Mhm.
It doesn't go through walls. Inside a building, you need an antenna that connects to the outside, but then you might as well go with Wi-Fi and
Mhm.
do Wi-Fi 6 or whatever that's coming next. There are some complexities in the use cases. Probably the best use case for 5G would be fleet management of autonomous cars in a smart city,
Mhm.
where you can have enough antennas, where you can have line of sight, where there is a need and there is the capability to address the need. But when people talk about remote surgery in some village 600 miles away,
Mhm.
well, if you happen to plant an antenna there that
Mhm.
connects back to the satellite or not, maybe, but you sort of need something like that to make that happen. And then you have to actually trust that some of those use cases are a little bit more esoteric.
What happens with 5G during a hurricane or an earthquake or a tornado?
Right, that's exactly the question. It's likely to not work because you don't have line of sight.
I would think that the internet should work all the time.
Well, not 5G. You have lower bandwidth stuff that can work regardless of what happens and can have very, very long distance,
Mhm.
but not a lot of data. If you're looking at control data or SOS data or some other sort of critical data, you could switch to communication methods that are very long range and very reliable, but not very high bandwidth.
Yeah.
The other thing about 5G is sort of the back end benefits. It
Mhm.
makes managing it better. And yet another thing that's happening in 5G is to run it as software on actual servers
Mhm.
with things like Open RAN and similar technologies that sort of serverize what otherwise would be a switch.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping that the technology is going to get better so that it works even during natural emergencies, right? Not just remote area, because that's when you need the internet the most. Just from how we communicate today, I think a lot of people use a cell phone instead of home phones.
Right, absolutely.
I haven't had one for a long time.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I have to tell people this phone is my only phone. Yeah,
yeah, this is my only phone. And I think there's some forms that ask you what is your number for your work phone
right.
and your home phone. And it's like, why are you paying another $40 a month to one of these big monopoly companies?
Yeah, yeah. No, a lot of it is momentum. You've had it all along. You kind of don't want to get, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then let's go to HPC and AI. I think we spoke a little bit about that. Well, we spoke a little bit about AI. And besides Chat GPT as well as the art generator, it feels like AI all around has created a number of different tools that are pretty awesome. Not just intelligence, but just to make life a lot easier,
Yeah.
faster. It's almost like an assistant by just using the web browser. Do you think that AI could make small businesses and also big companies a lot more efficient?
It can. I think it can make you efficient if you use it as a tool
Hmm.
to do something that it cannot do without you.
Hmm.
That's really the challenge because is it going to replace some jobs and tasks? Yeah, absolutely, it will. And as a society, it would behoove us to be prepared for that and to have a transition plan that makes it palatable.
Hmm.
But if we do, then it can be a tool that can be quite sweet because it can do a lot of things that we prefer not to do and do it without getting tired and do it at high quality. And as I like to say, AI doesn't have to be better than everybody on the planet. It just has to be better than me. And there's like a lot of things that could easily be better than me, and the few things that I have any claims for, well, then I either need to be really a lot better or I wouldn't care. I say, yeah, it can do it, but I can too. And for this kind of a activity, there are things that I am interested in, because of the person who is providing it, not because
Mhm.
of it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And by the way,
Definitely.
anytime I go to Phil's Coffee, I sort of am reminded that while you can press a button and a great cup of coffee comes out, sometimes you want it completely handmade.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I can write a poem, I can write an essay, I can write a book, and it's in my own voice based on the perception of how I see the world. Even as a photographer, I've traveled around the world, I've taken photos and video clips of everything around me, which makes me special.
Exactly.
I can write an essay today and it would be in my own voice. Even if I use a fancy language and a lot of English is still me. And I know that the AI could do it. However, you feel there's a detachment to what the AI provides you. At least even when I use it, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
of course I can generate a logo for someone with the prompt that I write.
Yeah.
However, I still feel a little bit of detachment. Usually I love, like when I write essays in my voice, I think about the writing the words and how it sounds. And there's just really a joy of doing that. And then of course we use AI, it takes like 2 minutes.
And in agreement with you, it's also the knowledge that it is yours,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it depends on what it is. If you're trying to accomplish a task and you don't really care how, and a
Yeah.
machine can do it better, great. It's impersonal, it's clinical.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment you add any sort of emotional content to it, which really the valuable things in life are,
As humans.
as humans,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what I mean when I say computers are pushing humans to be more human,
Mm-hmm.
to be more emotionally aware, to connect it, to be more complicated, to have more edges. And the more you do that, the more it's because it is you, not because I want a poem. I
Yeah.
want your poem. That's
Yeah.
what makes it interesting. That's what, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like mom's cooking. It's mom's cooking.
Yeah.
You could get good food elsewhere, but it won't have the same thing, you know? It's
Totally agreed. Completely agree about that.
you would, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when someone passes away and you don't have that food again, you kind of know that you miss somebody. It's just the same thing. You can go to 20 restaurants that makes the same food, but it's still not your mom's cooking.
Yeah. So this could be a good contribution of AI if AI makes humans more human.
Mhm.
That is a pretty sweet contribution. Yeah.
And what do you think about quantum
Right.
and where it is going?
Yeah. A lot of advances in quantum computing, quantum communication,
Mhm.
and quantum sensing or quantum measurement.
Mhm.
Now, as we said last time, where do you see quantum effects in life? Well, everywhere. Nature is quantum.
Mhm.
So really, the challenge for quantum computing is harnessing the power of quantum effects that happen in nature and make them programmable.
Mhm.
And that's really why you have so many different approaches to quantum computing, whether it's superconducting or it is trapped ion or neutral atom or
Mhm.
photonics or topological. These are some of the fundamentally different approaches to try to establish and harness quantum effects.
Mhm.
The industry is still in the middle of what it calls noisy intermediate scale quantum computing, NISQ.
Mhm.
And these are by definition noisy, they're intermediate. You're looking at a couple of hundred qubits. The highest one right now is 440 or something, the superconducting one that IBM made.
Mhm.
And it's got a very ambitious roadmap to increase that to a couple of thousand in the next year or so. But the number of qubits you want to do something pretty useful is on the order of hundreds of thousands to tens of millions of qubits.
Yeah.
We are really far away from that unless some incredible breakthrough occurs, which is possible, but probably not likely.
I think quantum and blockchain still haven't reached the masses yet. When I say blockchain, I don't think everyone understands it. There's only a small community who does, and it's still in the infancy. Quantum is even more so than anything else. I kind of wish for a day where I can talk to you in a quantum way without the internet, brain to brain. That would be ideal. And I think it would send things faster than the speed of light. I'm still looking forward to that day. I think it's more comfortable than having fibers in my head. And I hope that we would have a breakthrough in quantum.
Quantum measurement is pretty well established, like atomic clocks take advantage of that.
Mhm.
And there are uses in space as well as in various devices. Quantum communication is a thing. It has been demonstrated. People can do it. It's not faster than speed of light. It's more kind of through lasers and photons and stuff,
Yeah,
but it
lasers
does
and
use
photons. Well,
entanglement.
that's what I meant.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about entanglement, the expectation is that, yeah, it could actually be faster than speed of light
Mhm.
because I manipulate it here across the galaxy, somebody reads it, boom, I've communicated, right? But in
Mhm.
practice, as you try to implement it, it's still like, now quantum computing is really what's difficult because now you're trying to make it programmable and
Mhm.
manipulatable in a way that accomplishes some sort of a simulation. So then it's like, what kind of algorithms can it actually do that are useful? Prime factorization has been put forward as an application. Quantum chemistry, quantum physics, well, they're quantum anyway. It's the same Hamiltonian. Why don't I do it on a quantum computer? So that seems promising. Optimization, because that's really what these quantum chemistry, quantum physics application, quantum chromodynamics do. So I
Yeah.
may well map that to some other optimization. And then because of the prime factorization, quantum safe security comes about, and everybody's really up in arms about the bad guys storing encrypted data now
Yeah.
who decrypt it later with a quantum computer in 10 years and all manner of secrets will be exposed. That to me is like the on quantum market because you're trying to prevent a quantum computer to attack you rather than use a quantum computer to secure yourself.
I think I talked about a quantum deterrence of the mind a couple years ago. I think I
Uh-huh.
called it, wasn't it deter mind or something? Where I think a lot of technology is trying to read your mind
Mm.
now. We can use something to block it from reading it. And in a way, I think quantum could allow for consciousness or even AI consciousness, besides artificial love, artificial soul, and robots. I think the advancement of quantum computer or quantum entanglement or even love, I think those are interrelated to a lot of the more advancement of AI. And people talk about AGIs and stuff like that. I don't know if we would see it in our lifetime, but I
No,
kind of have
there,
a vision of that.
there are people who are researching that, the impact of quantum computing on spirituality or
Mhm.
psychology or
Mhm.
love, or why is it that we have chemistry with someone and not with someone else? Is that got to
Mhm.
do with some quantum effects in the brain that are causing some waves to come that are communicating in ways that we're not conscious of? I'm not sure I've seen any output of that research that seems sufficiently scientific that says, okay, there's a repeatability to it. Galileo would approve, kind of a thing.
I don't think we're
But
there
it's
yet, no?
happening. No, we're not
Yeah.
there yet.
We're
No,
not there yet. I
no.
think we're
Well,
still discovering it. I think there are some researchers on consciousnness with quantum and cousins of it, but I don't think we're there yet. I think we still need to study it. When you're a biology major, you learn about signals and how cells communicate with each other. I feel like in that quantum sense, when we talk about quantum communications and nature sometimes repeat itself in terms of different systems. We have land and then we have sea, and there's life in both. And sometimes the way that things work is very similar. And so I'm just kind of hoping that we could figure that out maybe one day.
one day. That's
One
right.
day.
One day. The good news is that there is so much we know so little about. So we kind of learn for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna continue learning about quantum for now and just kind of table that.
Yeah.
But that's a special one though. And I'm
That is
just,
a special one.
yeah, that's a special one. And I am really delightful to actually continue to learn about it and read about it as well. And then there's VR and AR. And recently Outspace VR closed. Outspace is a Microsoft company. And what is interesting to me is that I see the potential of AR. VR is cool, but you need headsets now
Mhm.
to go there, and you have to be in front of the computer. So it's tied to that. AR is awesome because you can just simply use your phone.
Yeah.
And I love both of them. However, I kind of see that a lot of the Web2 VR, they spent many years. VR is old. I had VR hackathons even years and years ago. But VR, the metaverse is kind of reviving in Web3 along with blockchain and NFTs. And I see some of the communities thriving. As someone who talks to the Web2 people and also the Web3 people, I see the ethos and the thinking and the mindset is completely different in both. While Web3 people sell land in metaverses within 5 minutes, Web2 people are shutting down businesses and are having a struggle to actually monetize. I feel like a lot of people uses AR, but I haven't seen a lot of AR in Web3 yet. There's just really not a lot.
Mhm.
What is your vision or future for VR and AR, or what people call XR, or even the metaverse?
XR and metaverse, yes.
Yeah.
Metaverse, I'm a little bit more expansive about. I think AR, VR, I've always thought that it's a question of use case. What is the actual application
Mhm,
that's going to make them work? Because again, you don't want to be a solution looking for a problem,
mhm,
which happens a lot because you do something that is cool and then you see, okay, who's actually going to use it and who's actually going to like it. Metaverse is different because that is really talking about a digital twin of the physical world.
mhm,
And we are unmistakably moving towards a blending of that digital and physical because we can take advantage of the digital to accelerate and enhance or make the better quality in physical.
mhm,
If you can simulate it and if you can build it in a digital way, you can do a better job in the physical world.
mhm,
Except that digital way needs to be realistic. It needs to be physics based. It
mhm,
needs to meet the requirements of science and engineering. And that's really where HPC supercomputing comes in,
mhm,
is that you have to be able to build the digital world according to the laws of nature that have been formulated and are computationally intensive. So
mhm,
now you need a supercomputer to build a digital world, and then now you can inform the physical. Now, once you're there, you're going to want to interact, you want to transact. So now you
mhm,
need crypto and you need to be safe. You need some kind of a quantum safe cryptography.
mhm,
You need rights management, so NFTs come in. You need identity, so that's another angle. All of these can come together to make metaverse real, but
mhm.
that too is like way out there, right? We
Yeah.
have so many different technologies that are very promising, but not here yet.
Only like 50 to 100 people can go into metaverse at the same time. With a lot of the metaverses out there, actually, I've hosted a party in a metaverse with more than 100 people. But we might have just gotten lucky because I super up the cloud and it was a decentralized metaverse that I had like built privately. I remember some of the other ones that I've been to when there's 20 people in the room or 25 or 40, 45, like you couldn't even get in. The computation is really not there yet, or even the cloud to hold all the digital twin assets that are in the metaverse and also the quality of it. I think there are some scanners that scan the world trying to create a digital twin, but the asset itself, you'll see broken edges and the quality isn't that great yet. And you can't
And
really go in per se. And it depends on the details of the interior as well as the exterior. We definitely are not there yet. I spend a lot of time in the metaverse, I think, just being in different ones to check them out or to hang out with friends. And it's kind of fun. So it's like playing a game. You could be interactive and social. I'm kind of looking forward to an advancement of the metaverse space.
I'm looking at gaming
Yeah,
as
gaming
a
is
place
mhm.
where you will see metaverse first in a real way.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you've got in-app purchases, you've got physics-based simulation, you have already a clientele that is there for a good reason. The use
yeah,
case is there. The computational backend is increasingly there because they need it. So yeah, the gaming is the number one thing that I see.
yeah, yeah. They have points as well.
That's right. That's
And
right.
that is very similar to coins.
Yeah, exactly.
So they
Exactly.
have
They're
a whole
national for
incentive
crypto.
system. Yeah. So they have a whole system already. And we're still waiting for regulation in crypto to determine innovation, especially in the United States. I'm not talking about outside, since I just feel like a lot of people are incorporating companies outside. But it'll be interesting to see the advancement of that because I don't see blockchain cryptocurrency as a separate technology. I just feel like it could be integrated into different technology and that they work together. And I think the world and technology itself is becoming more, there's more togetherness with the technology. And it's just really hard to use one separately. As we mentioned earlier, payments has become a vertical for everything with governance as well, because a DAO, when it is structured correctly and not just a smart contract with a bunch of people sending
Mhm.
you things, when it has systems and rules in place that is governed by a machine that is in contract, it could be more fair to people, more trust, and hopefully less corruption because there's transparency and there's exposure if someone tries to take money. Hopefully that really helps with the integrity and the fabric of our society, which I think has been changing
Mhm.
and sometimes impacted by technology.
Yeah. One comment I have about crypto and blockchain in general is that it is extremely difficult to be decentralized, and
Mhm,
it is also extremely difficult to be fully centralized.
mhm.
That the two ends of the spectrum are very difficult. Even when you find something centralized, you can already see that there could be a few, a half a dozen other sort of entities around it that make it not so centralized.
Yeah,
And then when you go all the way the other end, it becomes kind of like democracy. You need participation by
yeah.
a large enough number of people with sufficient geographic distribution to make that decentralization work. What does that tell me? That tells me that it is really difficult to get that level of decentralization for too many things. One or two things, three things maybe. After that, you're going to be as decentralized as you're going to get. And that essentially determines your fate.
Mhm,
That means that if your decentralization is to level X, then the use cases for which you're eligible to participate are defined by that.
mhm.
You cannot pick a use case that requires more decentralization than that. And that essentially is what I was saying earlier, is that you can match the weight of the protocol to the size and importance of the transaction. Crypto gives us that, but it also tempers our ambitions. Some
Yeah.
things are not going to be so centralized,
And I just
decentralized.
want to mention that blockchain and along with it, cryptocurrency has allowed for peer-to-peer money transfer, which is really what Bitcoin was intended to do. It has no chargebacks, and this is really what us in the payment industry calls it. But it did allows me to send you an X amount of Bitcoin in your wallet and it settles, and you don't have to wait 3 days for the banks to settle the transaction or the funds. I think it has done what it has set up to do, especially for the unbanked. And in other countries where the society is run a little bit differently, there is a concern about fraud and KYC and AML. Those concerns are the same concerns for cash as well,
That's right.
which is private. And if you look at the biggest problem or challenge for banks, it's the same thing. It's fraud.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. In my view, our view has been that cryptocurrencies will allow you to have highly optimized currencies for specific use cases.
Mhm,
And instead of trying to force all those use cases on cash,
mhm,
and it's incredibly versatile,
mhm,
it can actually do all of them, but not extremely well.
mhm,
Right? If you look at all the uses of money and say, okay, these are like 20 different uses of money, can you come up with a highly optimized currency for that particular use case?
mhm,
And if so, crypto will let you do that. Microtransactions are an example of that.
mhm,
Can I transfer a tiny amount of value in a way that is cost effective? Right? You
mhm,
cannot do that physically. You have to do it digitally. Yeah.
mhm. I'm looking forward to peer-to-peer transactions for NFTs without platforms. And with that said, even metaverses and AR, where we can travel between verses and worlds without having the platform as the middle person. I know it sounds kind of weird because I think we're used to going to the internet or going to a place and a URL to be somewhere. What if we can just go directly? Where I can just drive to Starbucks or to Costco and just Safeway and just do normal stuff directly without going to a platform. I guess that would be kind of cool. And I think there's still a lot of innovation to be done over there. But I think the way that it changes access to
Mm.
financial services, the way that it allows people to send one currency to another within a short amount of time. Those are amazing already because I remember when PayPal was created, it was meant to be I could be able to beam money to you, Palm Pilot to Palm Pilot, right?
That's right. Well, you were there, right, at PayPal?
Yeah, I was there at PayPal. It was just really the natural progression of digital money or money because metaverse, Second Life, like AI is old, AI is not new, right? But it's just really allowing for the mass to experience it. Some of the stuff that I've done in the past, nobody knew what I was doing. I was making digital robots, helping Sophia with helping humans become more loving. People understand it intellectually or even hear about it, but they really don't know what it means until they use it and
Hmm.
really generate and get the result from it, right?
Yeah.
Like money now, people can send money from one to another already, but I think we still have ways to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
We haven't talked about fusion and energy yet, and I wanted to kind of mention green technology since Davos just happened. And regardless of all the politics around Davos as a nonprofit or even as an event, what is your take on energy infusion? Do you think that we will get to a state where we will replace or even augment energy?
Eventually, I think, again, one of my colleagues is closer to the fusion research than I am, but I was talking to him this morning. My data is relatively recent. This is credit to Steve Perrino, who also has a valuation model for Bitcoin and is
Yeah.
a well-established name in the crypto world. But he has a degree from MIT, one from Harvard, PhD in astrophysics. So
Wow.
he understands the science and the math behind it. Generally, the analysis says that fusion energy is really for the second half of the century.
Mhm.
That while, again, a lot of good progress is taking place, it's all justification for additional investment or additional experiments.
Yeah.
It's not like we got there. It's like, okay, we solved one more problem and it makes sense to go solve the next one.
Mhm.
There was a really big announcement a couple of months ago in terms of the progress that had been made at one of the Department of Energy labs, that they had shown the National Ignition Facility, they had shown that they have got more energy out of it than they put in it,
Mhm.
right? That was really a milestone. However, the amount of energy it took to sort of generate the amount of energy that would then go in and then come out ahead was massive. The number of times you could do it was like once a week instead of 10 times a minute. There are multiple dimensions where significant progress needs to be made
Mhm.
to make this eligible to be used by your local utility company. That is going to be a few decades away. But again, a lot of good investment and progress. It's kind of reminiscent of quantum computing,
Mhm.
reminiscent of metaverse, reminiscent of, yeah.
Yeah, they think the convergence of all the technology, some more accessible to others, a lot still have ways to
Yeah.
go.
Additional nuclear power probably has more promise in the short term,
Mhm.
right? There was some approval recently for small modular reactors
Mhm.
that are more 50 megawatts rather than 300 megawatts. And that allows you to have to sprinkle them about. It allows you to have 4 or 5, 6 of them. It's easier to fund. The blast radius is less if something goes wrong.
Mhm.
That one, I think, is probably more of a technology to look at for the short term.
Mhm. Let me ask you the most interesting question. Of all the technologies that we mentioned, which one is the most important and how would you rank them?
That is very, very difficult. That is very difficult. They're all important. As you know, this is actually a good segue into sort of the bigger picture.
Mhm.
And as you know, I feel that we are in the midst of the third or fourth big revolution in human history,
Mhm.
as we've gone from hunter-gatherer to agricultural revolution,
Mhm.
where everything changed. People had to plant themselves someplace and work as a farmer, but then they
Mhm.
got to have predictable food supply and existence. But then if you're staying put, then your social changes, your spirituality changes, your medicine changes. Now, agricultural revolution lasted a couple of thousand years before we got to industrial revolution only 200 years ago.
Mhm.
With industrial revolution, we haven't had so much time There are parts of the world that are still not even industrialized yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we're talking about information revolution. To me, the bigger things that's happening in the world is this information revolution, which also means that the fights of the future are different, the requirements of the future are different. Everything is going to be different. Jobs will be different, medicine will be different, spirituality will be different, food will be different, and everything is going to be impacted by this information revolution. I think it behooves us to really understand all of these technologies such that we can plan for it properly and have a velvet revolution rather than a violent revolution.
Yeah. Now that there's Chat GPT and some more advanced AI, would you change the name the information revolution to something else? Because I feel like Google is an information revolution from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when Yahoo.
No, I think that these revolutions don't happen every other month, right? They don't happen every year. I think this is a multiple decades long
Revolution.
activity, and we are only, I don't know how far into it we are, but we're not into it for all that long. And when you look at it across the world, who's the comment that said the future is here, but just not equally distributed?
Yeah.
So there's that too, is that while there are parts of the world that are ahead of the game by virtue of the place they've been in, like Silicon Valley would be an example of that.
Yeah.
We have ways to go even within Silicon Valley.
I went to the internet forum the other year before COVID, and there are a lot of people from other countries who even said that they don't have the internet.
Yep.
I think there are people who really don't have smartphones and IoT devices, and hopefully they will be equally distributed and become normal one day. As you were speaking, I was just really thinking about during the Industrial Revolution, we see a reduction in the number of hours that humans were working. Basically, children were working. I think there was an exploitation of labor, and people were protesting. And so there were regulations on the number of hours that humans could work. And as a result of AI, do you think that humans should continue to work 8 hours a day? Do you think that humans could work, I mean, just in general, right?
Yeah.
Hours a day, for example, if you're in the US, and get compensated a lot more than the hourly wage?
Well, I think even before AI, my view was that the notion of a job
Mhm.
was a factory worker notion.
Mhm.
That before Industrial Revolution, you had apprenticeship and you had a livelihood
Mhm.
and you had a vocation, and that's really how you did. And as we became more and more industrialized, the notion of a 9 to 5 job, a permanent employee,
Mhm.
you're a lawyer. If you look at employment law, it's kind of almost entirely modeled after a factory worker.
I feel like it's also a paradox because it's supposed to be permanent, but you're also at will.
Well, exactly.
That's hilarious in a way.
That's right. And in fact, if you look at what's happened to people's history of jobs, there was a time when you would go get a job and then you would retire.
Mhm.
And then maybe you had a change of career once or twice. Now people have change of career every 2 years. And personally, my own half joke is that if you're carrying fewer than 3 business cards, you're probably not very happy and not very engaged.
Yeah.
That it is impossible for one job to occupy you 9 to 5 every day productively.
Mhm.
When you look at people, they have other hobbies. It could be
Mhm.
poetry, it could be cooking, it could be church choir or whatnot. I think a job needs to be more fluid. It needs to be more flexible.
Yeah.
It needs to be more about the work that needs to be done rather than punching your card and sitting in your chair for 8 hours because that's what the contract says. So I think the nature of the job is changing regardless.
Mhm.
Now, if AI can help accomplish some of that job, what does that mean for compensation? Now, I think we have to rethink what compensation is. For the sake of argument, if robots did 90% of all the work on the planet tomorrow,
Mhm.
who's getting paid for that work?
We're paying the robots. I'm just kidding. They should
Hey,
get
well,
paid.
then what are robots? Now, robots are going to take care of themselves. They're going to be in good operating condition, but they're going to have a whole lot of profit left over. What happens with that profit? Now,
Mhm.
there are people who think that profit can turn into UBI, universal basic income. There are people who think that we need to completely reimagine what the economy would look like in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And I believe that's, in fact, the path we're on. We're going to have to reimagine it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I asked you that question, because I think the traditional 9 to 5, I don't feel like it is working. I feel like it gives too much power to the company. They could lay you off anytime without notice or even prior notice. And it's usually not fair to a lot of the loyal employees, especially when they're loyal, because that's when they get emotional and get hurt, and they're too dependent on it for their livelihood. And I think traditionally we're paid by time. I think we're moving to a paradigm where we may be compensated by value
Yep.
in terms of compensation, in terms of hours and employment per se. Those are all shifting as well. Besides the technology, it's kind of interesting because it's a number of different revolution in one topic, not just technology,
That's right.
but technology impacting other parts of a life with ramifications.
Mhm. Now, there is kind of a project job and a process job.
Mhm,
So if you have a project job, then it can be outcome oriented, beginning and done. If it's a process job, you have to punctuate that through a period of time.
mhm,
You can say that, okay, you're going to run this process for the next 6 months,
mhm,
and then we're going to revisit where you are. Now, if that process gets automated, then you're not needed. If that project gets automated, you're not needed. I think that's one dimension to it. And then really the other dimension is the gig economy, which for some people represents freedom
mhm,
and for some people represents oppression. There are two different, very clear branches of the gig economy, those who have to and those who want to.
mhm.
If you are in the lucky group that wants to, then the gig economy can give you the cake and eat it too. If you have to, then you need more help to branch out of that.
Yeah, and when you have a gig, remember, you don't have certain kind of compensation as well.
But if you want to, that's exactly what you want,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You don't care. You say, hey, I'm making enough money.
I'll pay for my own
I can
healthcare.
choose when to do it. Well, or I'm rich enough to have healthcare.
Yeah,
And of course, this, when it comes to healthcare, that also exposes whether you need a common social like they have in some of the countries, or do you want to
yeah.
go completely? The fact that healthcare is connected to jobs in the US is a complexity.
Mhm. And back hours, time working on Saturday and Sunday, there's just really a lot of things that are kind of different. Also,
Yeah.
even RSUs and stock, how are we going to redistribute those, or not even redistribution, allocate those in the future? Reimagine is the right word. That also applies to a lot of the IP as well, because where IP is owned by the person who makes them, well, what happens? How can we even have something that is more fair?
Well, NFTs can help.
Yeah, NFTs could help. Some of the platforms have licensing terms, others don't. Even with the music ones, they use a lot of the Web2 concepts.
Mhm.
And when I buy an NFT and I replay it, it doesn't mean that the artist will get royalties and what and streaming fees and whatnot. I have a lot of opinion about that. Of course, it's not legal advice. Just in my opinion, I just really think that the whole royalty structure and the whole artist structure for music might have to be reimagined. That artists who makes a song could be compensated fairly
Yeah,
than just receiving a few cents from the music that they make.
that's right.
As is what is going on today.
That's right. That's right.
Because I think the power, the leverage may change in the near future. And therefore, when you look at IP, you also look at the systematic structures that allow that to happen. And a lot of it is contract law, right? Because I think certain companies and certain agencies have more power and leverage. And so you assigned your IP to certain people that could help you sell. When you are in a more decentralized environment that are more dependent on the whole community to
Yeah,
support you, then how do you change that paradigm of IP? And should that be changed? Should IP be more decentralized? And I think it's really a question that smart people would probably wanted to think about. I'm kind of looking forward to that as well. Maybe is an IP revolution. I don't know. We could add that to the information revolution because with ideas, there's IP.
Absolutely. No, I think these are extremely important topics that you raise. Yeah.
And the last two questions,
Hmm.
I think I've asked this last time, and I think it's been a couple years, so it's kind of fair to ask again. How do you see the future of the information revolution?
Oh, hopefully I said the same thing last time. I'm generally very optimistic.
Mhm,
Now, since last time, a couple of things have happened that I think few people expected that are complexities. Last time I talked about climate change as like the looming problem that if we solve that, the rest is really all rosy.
mhm.
Since then, we've had pandemics.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh
that
my
kind of,
gosh.
okay, that's like a risk I didn't think about. And then the other one is basically division and war that we are observing in Europe right now,
Mhm,
and all the associated risks that it represents, and the fragmentation of the global supply chain, the world that we live in that is like a retreat, at least a temporary retreat from globalization towards internationalization and regionalization.
mhm,
Now we have a few challenges that if we solve, the rest is really rosy. But I
mhm.
think long term, it is a force for good. I think long term, it is a force towards humans being more human, communities being more caring and more vibrant,
Yeah.
have a better foundation for peace and prosperity. Fingers crossed, that's how I feel.
I hope that the information revolution has solutions for the government and the relevant entities to solve pandemic challenges. It's kind of interesting. I haven't thought about pandemics unless I'm playing that game. You almost think that is in the movies and it's almost science fiction or very dystopia. And then when it happens, it just lasted for what it's been 3 years.
Right.
And it's just amazing. So many restaurants have closed, so many people have died. And then there's all these different side effects, and it's really scary and it just really changes our lives. And you would think that with the information revolution, it would be really easy to solve that problem, but it didn't seem like it because it still impact our life really greatly. When I travel, I still have to take COVID tests for certain countries and whatnot.
That's
And
right.
you still don't want to spread if you have it to any of your friends and family, and you still wanted to get tested in that sense. In terms of biology and these pandemics situation, hopefully the technologies that we have could mitigate that
That's right. That's right.
and create solutions for us in a faster way.
Well, it was pretty impressively fast this time around, right? I mean, the expectation was that this was going to be a 5-year process. And in fact, within 2 years, there were pretty effective vaccines and they've got better since, complete with all the social and misinformation and political fights that it ensued, that it caused.
I would
So
have
yeah, yeah, we have challenges. Yeah.
I just had high expectations. I just wanted it to be resolved within 1 year or 1.5 years or something, but it was like 3 years now and it's still a little bit
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
different, right? I didn't think that it would last as long as the Spanish flu.
That's
Mm,
right. Yeah. That bad
and it
one.
did,
Yeah.
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 And what is one piece of advice or wisdom that you would like to provide to the community? And it could be a different one from last time after all the experiences that you had in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know what I said last time, but this time I would say that A, embrace change,
Mhm,
because one of my favorite quotes is that when things change, they're not the same anymore. And you have to make change your own idea. Don't let change be imposed on you,
mhm,
but lead it yourself on your own behalf. Let it be your own idea. I think
mhm.
change is best when it is your own idea. And number two, study. Whoever studies has a leg up, and study all these trends so you can develop some opinion and some understanding of how they're going to impact your life and your family's life. And you can make it fun because you're learning something. The thing about learning is that even if it looks so daunting, now you're a great example of that because you go from completely different field to completely different field just like that. And next thing you know, you're an expert. And I think that's a really good model. Start studying, and before you know it, you can become an expert.
Yeah, like I think for me, I feel like when I was in high school and college, like even before the teacher teaches me things, I just learned it myself when I was going to law school. I would just buy some courses on e-commerce, even though I
Mhm.
couldn't take the class. I know it sounds really nerdy, but it helps. And then when I was in college, I was coding HTML and making
Right,
websites.
right,
And I
right.
don't really
That's
think
it.
that there were classes yet at that time because the internet was just kind of new. And so I think a lot of times at that time you have to be a designer and a coder because things are not separated yet like today where you need
That's
like
right.
you need
That's
like
right.
you need to have a separate designer, you need to be a back end, even a front end. I think we just basically did everything ourselves.
Yeah,
Back in the days we're not that spoiled or entitled. I think it kind of helps. A lot of times people ask me, well, how do you do that? And I'm just like, I just read a manual and I just want it.
you just do. That's right. Yeah.
And it's been pretty awesome. And I feel like just tingling with music, reading the terms, seeing how that works really, really helps. And by breaking things, a lot of times you need to figure out solutions to make it work by actually putting yourself in the field, asking people questions. You kind of understand technology in a very intimate way. For example, when I was making AR in the social media platform, people were saying that, oh, people are not following me. I don't know what's going on, or people off this social media. But again, at the same time, I have a lot of followers that I need to prove every day. You kind of see the migration of trends a little bit more intimately and closer.
Yeah.
And that way it's really good. And it's especially important if you're an innovator or if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a student, because the challenges that we see today, all the problems, if you understand the problem, you can innovate and make a company or start a company to solve them. And that's the value that you provide to the world. That is the most important,
That's a great model too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when you're in school, because you have all the time and life to learn and explore and tinker and to innovate and to create and to look at problems in a different way. And then when you basically start working in a corporation, then you can use challenges for that particular company so that
Yeah.
it doesn't sound that, that you can solve those little challenges. But then you can kind of think about the world, the bigger picture, and solve those problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Right on. Right on. Way to do it.
Awesome. Is there anything you wanted to speak about?
No, it's great to connect again. I was looking forward to it and I'm glad we did. It's always good to see your social posts on various media and see what you're up to now. Always something exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to follow up on this topic because sometimes you don't really know what's changed, but a lot of change. And I think it's good. I think even for moonshot projects or technology, it looks far away, but I think there's advancement that you
Yeah.
might overlook. And so it's kind of nice to actually talk about these technology and how it has changed and make our life better for the most part.
I think the challenge is to recognize where a technology is in real terms.
Mhm.
And I think the associated challenge is to have sufficient enthusiasm to pursue it,
Yeah,
but not too much that you start hyping it and believe your own kind of misstatements.
yeah,
That is the challenge because it is so easy to be excited about these things. And some of them are sort of guaranteed to cause incredible advances,
yeah.
but not yet.
Yeah, I think it is being able to have a vision, and having a vision could be delusional, but at the same time be grounded and really know what the technology can do today so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you really know the reality of it. And I think that's good for both innovating and also for investing as well. If you wanted to invest in this technology, you don't want to be scammed, or you don't want it to create a company that is impossible and it becomes a scam. Even if
Right.
you
Right.
don't intend to at the beginning, you're basically overtaken by ego. That sounds awesome. I think we spoke about everything under the sun today,
Yes.
today and more. And hopefully the listeners enjoy the conversation that we had.
I hope so. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you guys want to continue the chat, our wonderful listeners, reach out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Happy to connect.
How can people find you?
Oh, on Twitter, I'm at Shahin Khan. Similarly on LinkedIn, I think Shahin 10K there because the others were taken. But also go to OrionX, ORIONX.net. That's our website, and everything is there, including all the podcasts that we do, which is really most of our output. Yeah.
Awesome. 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 I really appreciate and enjoy this chat. Thank you for being here with us.
Likewise. Thank you so much,
You.
Michelle.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye.